Hey everyone, Kevin here, and welcome back to my channel. Today's conversation came about after seeing a lot of misinformation about instructional designers being circulated on LinkedIn and other networking sites about what IDs and L&D professionals as a whole really do on a daily basis. It's gotten to the point where LinkedIn ID and real world ID have essentially become two different things. And it's led to people looking to transition into our field having a seriously warped version of instructional design and what they should expect to do after securing a job as one. If you spend too much time on social media platforms like LinkedIn, YouTube, or TikTok and listen to these fake gurus, or furus for short, you'd probably end up with thinking that instructional design is this monolithic and clearly defined role where you do the same thing as every other idea out there and thus must learn the same skills or attain the same degrees and certifications, which just isn't the case at all. ID is a seriously diverse field with virtually no uniformity to speak of, and one that's become very saturated with people who hype up the industry as a great place full of creativity and work life balance over whatever they did before, particularly teachers. As a result, you end up with people shelling out countless thousands of dollars on random ID academies and boot camps created by these gurus to scam you into thinking that what they'll teach you will guarantee you a job. And that's a really dangerous thing to be doing to people, not only from a financially dishonest point of view, but because it also sets up so many for failure and unhappiness when they find that the new career they chose isn't what they thought it was. Plus, I can tell you right now that any association with an academy, boot camp, or program will not give you even the slightest competitive advantage. Some might provide you with good raw information in theory, but not practical real world things you actually need to know. Which is another important point to bring up, too. Most of those academies convince you that you must have a portfolio website, and if you don't, you'll never get a job, which is just a load of crap. Your portfolio is only a collection of work samples, and you can present that in so many other ways on a website. I've never once seen a hiring manager or recruiter care how you present those work samples. It's not a website, it's just a collection of work. Basically, if you listen to many ideas on LinkedIn, you'd probably conclude that most are given an infinite amount of time to conduct needs analyses before starting projects, are 100% able to choose what courses they make and push back on the ones they know aren't training problems, or that every ID is able to do meaningful evaluations to see if the course has made a measurable impact on the company by changing employees' behavior on the job. You'd probably also think that freelancing as an ID is really easy and you could start your own freelancing business within a couple of days, that they have financial freedom and are making six figures. Check out my video on that one, by the way. And that you'll have a 4-day work week where you only accept projects you like doing, or that your SMEs and stakeholders will always review things you need in a timely manner. My personal favorite is that most ID influencers on LinkedIn make it seem like you will only be doing instructional design, e-learning creation, or PowerPoints when that is just not true. What all of this does is create a really skewed idea of this industry. The truth is that all of what I've just said and how the field is misrepresented creates a gross oversimplification of what we do and ignores how varied the job title is. In reality, saying that you're an instructional designer is inherently ambiguous. Some IDs do indeed create needs analyses, while many don't at all. Some mainly focus on the graphic design of courses and spend most of their time in Adobe Photoshop and Creative Cloud than any other authoring tool like Storyline or Captivate, while others are excellent video editors and are more at home creating training videos with Camtasia than creating traditional e-learning. Few IDs get to actually push back on creating trainings for things that aren't training problems either. I actually just made a recent poll on LinkedIn about this, and every single respondent said they've had to do this. And often you're inundated with creating courses without ever really being able to fully review or evaluate data on if what you created made a difference until months and months later. And most of that experience came from hands on learning done independently rather than through any program. Because, newsflash, there is literally no industry accepted standard to be an instructional designer. Sure, you can get a master's degree or certificate in ID, go to an academy like IDLE or ADA, or attend the boot camp of an ID who barely has any corporate experience in the first place, like Devlin Peck, who should be avoided because he's a content creator and marketer rather than an ID who has practical experience and thus is churning out poor quality IDs through his program. I often find that IDs are hired to fix the courses made by IDs who came out of boot camps like his because they're such poor quality. And yes, I've had to do that myself recently after reviewing a few really inadequate trainings. Usually, the best that all of those programs will do is dump adult learning theories on you and promise you that having that badge they give you will be some way to get you a job, even though it won't. You learn some important things, yes, and you need to know adult learning theories. But again, it's mainly theory, and most don't really teach you how to create things in the authoring tools you're probably going to need to know, or how to create word samples that you need for a portfolio. They focus on getting you to pay $5,000 to $10,000 for their program to get their badge or whatever, instead of actually showing you how to create something which you can use to showcase your unique skills and get you hired. Instructional design is more creative than most jobs, and generally speaking, does provide a better work life balance than other careers with more potential for remote work and flexible schedules. But you won't be raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars. You won't easily be able to make it as a freelancer, and you'll really need to accept that getting the experience you need will take a lot of time. It isn't an easy job to just hop into, especially right now with how bad the job market is for IDs and how saturated the field is, because everyone's been sold on the idea that it is a really fun job that can also be a get rich quick scheme. Our field is diverse. And if you really want to move into it, and I'm talking especially to the teachers watching right now, you really need to do your research on what your niche is in the job and commit yourself to the serious upskilling that you'll need to sell yourself in that particular role. I had to do a lot to sell myself as a video editing ID, and part of the reason why I made this YouTube channel in the first place was to do that. And it worked because I was creating meaningful content and using it in my portfolio along with the more traditional storyline and rise type courses that I've made. It's why I have my job right now. Not because I assume that it's just like teaching, like people sell it on you, or that the certificate I did with my college was enough to get a job. That change takes time, and it's really important to reiterate that ID is not monolithic like LinkedIn makes it out to be. We can't oversimplify a really complicated industry, or else we'll just end up with a lot of underqualified instructional designers who lack meaningful skills. Well, guys, that's all for today, and thanks for listening. If you're interested in the field, do your research and let me know if you need any help. And take a second to hit subscribe and the bell button to help with that pesky algorithm. But for now, I've been Kevin, and I will see you in the next video.